Welcome to Don't Cop Out, the show that challenges everything you think you know about public safety. I'm your host, William C. Anderson. Each episode, I'll introduce you to a community safety responder who's leading the charge in creating alternatives to policing. Together, we'll debunk common myths about what keeps us safe and introduce you to people proving that true safety doesn't require a badge or a gun. Today, I'm speaking with DeSilva of Atlanta Policing Alternatives and Diversion Initiative, also known as PAD. Let's get into it. Welcome, Ash. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. What about yourself?
I'm all right. Thanks for asking. I'm really looking forward to this conversation with you today. One of the first things I wanted to get into was just the story of PAD. I mean, you're an organization with an interesting and unique backstory and perspective about this work. So if we could get started with you telling me a little bit about who PAD is and how it came into being, that would be great.
Sure. So had really started around 2017 and was founded by Black trans sex workers. And they really had a vision of seeing people on the streets that really needed help. And there was no program, there was no intervention other than policing that made contact with these individuals that really needed help. So really just setting the foundation for what are some alternative ways that we could help anyone experiencing a quality of life concern without police intervention. So that's really the framework of who PAD is and what our mission is to reduce the amount of people that are incarcerated due to quality of life concerns. And instead of calling 911, being able to call 311 to get these individuals help.
So what are the most common types of incidents that PAD is called on? What are the most common grievances that PAD responds to?
Any quality of life concern. So that's mental health crises. So maybe somebody's talking to themselves. Maybe somebody's yelling and screaming, walking in and out of traffic. And mental health can really look like a lot of different things to a lot of different people, right? Substance abuse concerns. Maybe they're actively using, maybe there's clear signs that they've just used. If somebody is panhandling, whether that's at an intersection, right? I think we've all, especially if you live in Atlanta, you can name a couple of intersections where you see some folks with signs, and sometimes they're doing different tricks or different things to try to get a buck. Maybe they're outside of a business asking people that are coming in and out for money or for food, things like that. We also get calls for people that are sleeping on benches that have kind of set up shop on a busy street or tucked away behind an abandoned building. So any quality of life concern within that scope, we will respond to.
So based on your work, what would a healthy community look like or feel like or sound like to you?
I think a healthy community starts with education. I think that there are a lot of people that don't know about us. And not only do they not know about us, they can't really imagine a world where police intervention isn't necessary for quality of life concerns. So I think the biggest part of this really is just getting the word out there and education. Our work really depends on people calling us, right? So part of our job does include diversions, which is through law enforcement, right? So let's say an officer gets called out to a call and they realize that this person's having a quality of life concern. Officers have the choice to call us and say, hey, this person's really not going to get the help they need by me arresting them. Can you guys come out and assess? With that being said, if community members see it going on, and let's be real, we all see it going on, especially the closer to the city you get, the more you're seeing it. Call 311, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. We actually just extended our hours not too long ago to 12 a.m. Again, you see that person sleeping on a bench. You see that person that isn't clothed. You see that person that is maybe struggling with substance use. A healthy community is one that's really going to help each other. And if we have resources available to help that don't include somebody getting arrested, why not try that?
So can you give us just a brief description of some of the other services you provide in addition to those deterrence and interventions you might provide regarding mental health?
So specific to mental health, we do have care navigators who essentially are case managers, right? They provide long-term case management. And I think that's one thing that we have that some other organizations don't really have. So community response is kind of the boots on the ground, right? So we're getting that individual with their consent from where they are to where they want to be. So we are engaging that individual. If they accept our services, if they consent to our services, we're connecting them in real time to a case manager, our care navigators. And that care navigator can go ahead and assess what's going on. We're looking at family reunification. We're looking at birth certificates and ID. If there's health stuff going on, if there's mental health stuff going on, specifically with the mental health piece, that's really first and foremost, right? Because that's just as important as if somebody's got a wound on their leg or whatever it is. So the same way that we would treat that physical wound is the same way we're going to treat someone that's struggling with their mental health. So whether that's reconnecting them to get their medication, sometimes people either don't have the money for their medication, they don't have means to get to their doctor's appointments. A lot of time we see people that don't believe that they have a mental health issue and don't believe that they need to take medication. So working closely with them to try to advocate on their behalf since they're unable to advocate for themselves at that time.
That's amazing. So, what kind of lived experiences do team members have that are doing this on the ground work? What kind of lived experience do they have that informs how they approach it and makes them, really effective in being able to assess the situation and handle it?
Our team is made up of so many amazing people with experience. Full transparency, even during the hiring process, we're really looking at people that have some sort of lived experience as it relates to this work. So that could be that you're in recovery with your addiction, and no matter what that addiction is. We do have some employees that have experience being unhoused in the past, or have family members that are struggling with mental health or have been unhoused. We have members of the LGBTQIA plus community. We come in all different colors, shapes, sizes. And we really use that to our advantage in the sense of we recognize that when we go out to calls, right, there may be an unhoused 24-year-old Black male that may not relate well to a 42-year-old white female, right? And we have those candid conversations with them of, would you feel more comfortable, talking to my coworker here or whatever it is, So again, we come in all different color shapes and sizes. And I think that's one of the great thing about us is that while we're so diverse, it's amazing that we all have the same goal and the same mission, and we all just get it. Like we are all on the same page with this, and we can really bring our lived experiences together and use that to serve people on a level that's not just what the textbook says, right? Like education is amazing and it's important and it's great, and we do have a lot of folks here with higher education, but I'm really looking at those people that have the lived experience, because a textbook doesn't necessarily tell you what it's like to be a female with a child engaging in sex work because you need to make sure that you can eat that day, right? So things like that. That's how we can really start building rapport with people. And rapport is one of the most important things that we really focus on. Because if not, right, we're just two strangers pulling up in our pad van saying, hey, hop in, I'm going to change your life. So that may include engaging somebody a couple of times throughout the month or throughout the week, depending on what they have going on. And just building that rapport, letting them know that we're safe and we're not just people that are saying, hey, I understand, right? Like all that type of shit. I don't like that. And I think that's what makes our work so important. And more specifically, the value of PAD is really intertwined with that concept.
Coming up next.
If people knew that there was actually an alternative to call 911, they would.
Big moments or small moments, they all deserve great style. Our over 800 stylists are here to help you look and feel your best. Visit your local Maurice's to find fashion fit for you, with a little help from us. Ready to level up? Chumba Casino is your playbook to fun. It's free to play with no purchase necessary. Enjoy hundreds of online social games like blackjack, slots, and solitaire anytime, anywhere with fresh releases every week. Whether you're at home or on the go, let Chumba Casino bring the excitement to you. Plus, get free daily login bonuses and a free welcome bonus. Join now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Play Chumba Casino today. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. T&Cs apply.
You're tuned into Auto Intelligence, live from Auto Trader, where data, tools, and your preferences sync to make your car shopping smooth.
They're searching inventory.
Oh, yeah.
They find what you need.
They're gonna find
You
it.
can make a budget for your wallet to help you succeed. Pricing's precise and true.
So true.
It's smarter car shopping.
Ooh.
Just for you.
Oh, it's just for you. Find your next ride at autotrader.com. Powered by Auto Intelligence.
Epic views, waterfall mists, summit sunsets. It's all better outside. And with All Trails, you can discover the best of nature with over 450,000 trails around the world. Download the free app today and find your next adventure.
So people can make calls. They can dial 311 and, try to get some help, try to get an intervention, try to get some sort of assistance. That's amazing. So why is it important to have this type of service available to the general public?
Alternative response has been around for quite some time, yet it's still a fairly new idea. And all you have to do is turn on the news locally, nationally, and you can pretty much see for yourself why policing when it comes to quality of life concerns just doesn't necessarily work. When we're looking at alternative response, from my perspective, everybody wins in alternative response. What's happening is that individuals are getting arrested, let's say for criminal trespass, shoplifting, loitering, public indecency, public urination, public defecation, you name it, they're being arrested, or urban encampment, that sort of thing. Well, they go to jail, right, for a couple of days to a couple of months. Well, when they get back out and they haven't been given any resources, they haven't been given any medication, they haven't been reunified with their family, they haven't had any sort of assessment, they haven't had any sort of case management, they haven't had any of that. Well, history is just going to keep repeating itself. So sometimes we're looking at people that have been arrested 30, 40, 50, and 60 times as it relates to quality of life concerns, and they're not getting the help that they need. And it's traumatic being, getting arrested and going to jail and fighting for your life in some circumstances and just sitting there, maybe scared, not understanding what's happening, what's going on, and realizing that whatever circumstance got you into this situation, not understanding why it's being criminalized, right? So we're really, again, just trying to get to the root of the issue for these individuals to ensure that this isn't happening over and over and over and over again. And there's a lot of people that are getting lost in this system of insanity where we keep doing the same thing to the same people until basically they die or they move on. But if I see them on First Street, maybe in a month I'm going to see them on Fifth Street, and they're just moving, and we're just moving people around, and it's not working. So really just focusing again on the education portion of the fact that everybody wins in alternative response, point blank, period. Nobody can argue that. I wouldn't say just with me, but just in general, looking at it. And I hope I answered your question, man. I just get a little heated with, I go on a tangent a little.
No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, this is really important work, and the stakes are really high. So I can understand why you feel passionately about it. And, with that in mind, I'm thinking about what you said at the beginning in terms of the origins and the foundations of this work. And you talked about it being started by trans sex workers. And I mean, that is a community that is marginalized and severely discriminated against. And it made me want to really see if you could get into the details about how communities like that one, like the Black community and other communities that experience disproportionately being targeted by police and so on and so forth, have a deep distrust. But they still oftentimes feel obligated to call the police in crisis.
That's a really good point because I feel like if people knew that there was actually an alternative to call 911, they would. A lot of people do know about us, right? But there are especially underserved communities that just don't know about us. So we make it a point to have a presence in those communities specifically so they know, hey, when it comes to any type of quality of life concern, we are here and we will respond to you. There's no calls that we don't respond to as it relates to quality of life concerns. And to kind of push back on your point a little bit, when you said that, they may feel like they have no choice but to call 911, I think the flip side of that is that a lot of people don't want to call 911 and then they're stuck in the same shit position that they're in. I think that's an even bigger issue than feeling like, well, I can only call 911. Again, the bigger issue being people feeling like I can't even call 911. So who is there to call? Who is there to help somebody that looks like me, thinks like me, talks like me, dresses like me, is in a situation like me? And that's Pat.
So how do you get past the skepticism then? What if people are doubting you and feel like if they call you, they're not going to get an efficient response or a qualified or professional response? How do you overcome that?
I would say give us a chance. Alternative response is very new still to a lot of people. So I think it's giving it a chance to see what their experience is like, talking to people that know about PAD, who have had experiences with PAD, some of our participants, calling us, asking questions, whatever it is. Everyone that works here is more than happy and more than willing to answer any questions. So even before you decide to utilize the service for one of our neighbors that you see needs assistance, email us, call us, see, explain the situation, see what's going on, and we'll let you know how we could potentially help, what resources are out there that we may be able to connect that person to. Yeah, just give us a chance and give that individual a chance.
Yeah, I was going to ask you what you would do to reassure someone who was saying that this isn't realistic, and it sounds like the answer is give you a chance.
Give it a chance.
So if that's the case, then as we approach this work, looking, from the outside looking in, what are some of the top misconceptions that people might have regarding the work?
I'll speak specifically to PAD as opposed to alternative response in general. We are not a housing agency. I wish that we had our own 10-story building with housing. I wish we did, but we are not a housing agency. We are not a removal service. So if somebody calls and says, hey, there's this guy that is panhandling and is nude outside of my business, I don't want the public to think that, okay, we're coming there to enforce anything. So we are anti-enforcement. We are 1,000% consent-based. With that being said, we always do advise on law enforcement. We let people know, hey, one of your neighbors was concerned about you. They typically call us before they call law enforcement. I really don't want to see you have an interaction with law enforcement because I do feel like we'll be able to help you out with some of your needs if you want to. If you're okay with it, just let us know what's going on and we can utilize some of the resources here in the city to be able to connect you, whether that's getting you on MARTA to get where you need to go, whether that's you hopping in our van and we will drive you where you need to go. If there's a mental health crisis going on and they're a harm to themselves or others, we'll call Grady Mobile Crisis and wait with the individual there to advocate for them, because typically law enforcement does respond to those calls also. So we'll make sure that we stay on scene to be able to assist that individual and advocate for them. If there's something physical going on, I mean, we've had people have seizures and strokes and overdosing and all of that. And we're trained to respond when it comes to overdoses and CPR and basic first aid. But we will call EMS if we need to and wait with that individual there.
Thank you for answering that. So we want to talk a little bit more about some of the personal aspects around all of this. I would love to know if you could share an experience or a testimony or a time or an occasion when someone doing the work was able to really make a change or intervene in a crisis in a way that stands out for you.
I guess I can think of a couple. We had one individual, and it wasn't actually a call that came in through us, but we were leaving a call in an area that was known for sex work, drug use, prostitution, all that sort of thing. And this guy was just laid out, blue and gray, not breathing, eyes were just open, wasn't blinking. essentially dead. We were pretty sure. And our team was able to recognize the signs of an overdose, not just assume. And, people were just kind of standing around not really knowing what to do. So we just hopped right in there, administered Narcan, gave CPR, put him in the recovery position, and just kept going and going and going for 10, 15 minutes until he finally took a breath, and EMS was able to arrive. And there's a lot of that in our community, unfortunately. So just the fact that we are out there, again, even though that wasn't a call that we were responding to, just the fact that we are active, boots on the ground, 7 a.m. to 12 a.m., you will see a pad van around the city of Atlanta. So just the fact that we had that presence and we were able to actually be there and stay cool, calm, and collected and intervene until help arrived is definitely something huge. We've had a couple of people that sometimes, full transparency, it's taken us a couple of weeks to a couple of months to really get through to this individual. Learned helplessness is real. And a lot of people have been promised things or have tried things, especially if they have mental health stuff going on, substance use stuff going on. They have really tried their best to get help, and they're kind of just like, fuck it. Like, I've been doing this over and over and over and over again, and nobody can help me. There's no resources. I've tried and tried and tried, and nothing has worked. And again, it's a fine line, right? Because we respect when people say, I don't want your help. I don't want to go with you guys, whatever it is. But there's just this discernment I feel that our responders have of like, it may not be today and it may not be tomorrow, but I know it will be. And however many times we have to go back out to that particular person in between our other calls that we're getting and other duties that we have, it works. Rapport building works, right? And sometimes that's just, hey, man, bought you some socks and a cigarette today. And maybe that's it. Or, hey, here's a snack bag. I remember you were telling me about your mom, how's she doing? Just things like that, and actively listening. So when you're going back out, you're reflecting with that person. You're summarizing with that person. You let them know that, hey, I hear you and I see you. I know your name. I know your mama's name. You told me about that cool thing you used to do back in the day, or whatever it is. So just taking notes and being very strategic with how we interact with people. So those are the types of calls that always stand out to me. It's not the clear and cut ones where we go out, the person says, yeah, I want help. And that's great. And that's awesome that we're able to get them into our program or get them reconnected. But it's when our team is really putting in work and knowing these folks by name and knowing their circumstances, sometimes knowing what school they went to, what city they grew up in, what their ex-boyfriend's name that broke their heart. And we're like, yeah, fuck him, whatever it is. Just stuff like that is like, imagine just being someone that is unseen, overlooked, literally and figuratively stepped over. I mean, just having someone remember that is like, okay, cool. I can trust this person. And we're like, hey, it's not going to be easy because we're working with limited resources that are in the city, and we're going to get you here and whatever it is. So we can give them a cell phone. We can call them and follow up. Hey, just making sure you're okay. Oh, you got connected with your care navigator? Perfect. Cool. And then CRS kind of washes their hands with that individual, and then off to the next person while they're connected with their care navigator. And once they're with the care navigator, we know that they do an amazing job. They have a hell of a job to do. They have a heavy job to do, but they really carry our participants through once CRS is able to get them to the next step.
Coming up,
Alternative response is financially more responsible for our community, and it's more effective.
What does possibility mean to you?
That's a hard question.
Something that you can strive for.
That I'm able to do anything I set my mind to.
You're confident in yourself and you believe in yourself. Stuff that you could achieve.
I feel excited. Anything is possible when you're more confident.
Shoes are a huge part of that. They are the most important part of my style.
You can express yourself.
In the right shoes, anything is possible.
DSW, countless shoes at brag-worthy prices. Imagine the possibilities.
Accepting insurance without the support of a group practice can be tough, but most people looking for mental health care want to use their benefits to pay for sessions. If you're interested in seeing clients through insurance, Alma can help. They make it easy to get credentialed with major insurance plans at enhanced reimbursement rates. They also handle all the paperwork, from eligibility checks to claim submissions, and guarantee payment within 2 weeks. Visit HelloAlma.com to get started. That's HelloAlma.com. Ready to level up? Chumba Casino is your playbook to fun. It's free to play with no purchase necessary. Enjoy hundreds of online social games like blackjack, slots, and solitaire anytime, anywhere with fresh releases every week. Whether you're at home or on the go, let Chumba Casino bring the excitement to you. Plus, get free daily login bonuses and a free welcome bonus. Join now for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. Play Chumba Casino today. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. TNCs apply.
Ash, I really hope that you like games because we're about to play a game.
All right, let's do it.
Great. So this is a game we play on this podcast called 60 Seconds with a Safety Expert. And I want to ask you a series of quick questions, and your job is to just keep the answers short, but we want them to be something that really encapsulates a good, powerful response. So are you ready?
I hope so, man. I think so. Let's do it.
What's your name?
My name is Ash DeSilva.
Okay. What do you do?
I am the Director of Community Response Services over at PAD.
What's one myth about community safety you want to shut down?
That the only way to keep a community safe is through policing.
So what's a safer way to respond to conflict besides calling cops?
Call 311 Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. and ask for PAD.
Great promo. Who actually benefits from our current policing system?
The people that aren't open to change.
What does safety mean to you personally?
Anyone that can't advocate for themselves can still feel safe with the people that are around them.
What does a successful community response look like in 3 words?
Compassion, consent, discernment.
What's at stake if we don't invest in police alternatives?
A lot.
Simple and straightforward. What's one resource everyone listening should know about?
311.
Great. What's one action listeners can take today to support police alternatives?
Educate yourself on alternative response and check out our website, atlantapad.org.
What's a question we should all be asking more often?
Is there another way to do this?
Finish this sentence. We don't need the police when we have blank.
PAD.
What's a word you'd use to describe the future of safety?
Safe.
What do you say to someone who's afraid of change?
You may not have a choice.
Thanks. Well, I think you killed it. That was a great round. If we're thinking about the current time that we're in and everything that's going on, I think it's really important to bring in some of the outside events and news that dominates so much of our lives to kind of give people some more perspective here. And I want to talk to you about the politics of this moment so that we can kind of unpack some of how that's influencing everything that's happening on the ground for you. So given where you are in Atlanta, there's been quite a bit of protest and quite a bit of pushback around issues like the construction of Cop City. There's been a lot of issues around local policing there. Can you tell us about how PAD is being poised to be able to help the community navigate some of those questions and conflicts?
I guess one thing that I can really speak to is the hyperfunding of police. I think the issue here is that, or the question I say that we should be asking is, why are we focusing on one area of public safety and not others? So for me, that calls into question a lot of things. And don't quote me on it, but I believe it's maybe since about 2018 or 2019, there's been a significant increase in the funding of police. And for anyone that knows anything about PAD, we recently, 6 months ago, had an issue with our funding. And it's like, we're fighting for alternative response and we're fighting for PAD. Yet there's only one sector of public safety that's being funded. I guess that's as political as I'll get with that, but I will say, just and from my personal experience, I started at PAD as a responder. And when I would go to certain areas in Atlanta, it was always, we're not going to support you financially because these people just need to be arrested. They're committing crimes and, that type of narrative. And I'm like, do you understand how much money it costs taxpayers to keep our familiar faces in prison, and what the cost difference is for alternative response to actually be able to nip this issue in the butt with this individual? So just a lot of those types of conversations. So the whole funding stuff just really grinds my gears, to be honest with you, because I feel like if people could look at the data and not just go off like what you hear in like a little clip on TikTok or like on the news or whatever, but when you actually sit down and look at the data, alternative response is financially more responsible for our community, for our city specifically, and it's more effective. But people don't like that. And for whatever reason, we're throwing more money at the police. And I'm not saying defund the police. I'm just saying if you're going to fund one sector of community safety, you really ought to be funding some of the other sectors of community safety.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you're saying this because there is a lot of fear around, what happens if the resources are not there for the system that folks are used to, which is the system of policing. And you're speaking to this important point about funding, and you brought up that your organization faced cuts and faced a crisis. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that crisis was and what brought it on and how you overcame it?
Sure. So we are 6 months into our 2-year contract with the city. We spent a lot of that time advocating for our funding, which is very frustrating to do, not just advocating to the city, but just advocating to the public in general. Because again, this alternative response works. And so it's very frustrating to have to fight for that constantly. So we were awarded a contract by the city. The city pulled back. And we spent quite some time fighting for that. And eventually we were able to negotiate with the city. So thank God we are up and running, and we have a secured 2-year contract. But again, I mean, let's be totally transparent. Yeah, it's job security, right? But the bigger picture is there are so many people. You can just look outside your window. You can drive from one end of the city to the other and see the amount of people that need help. And the police just aren't equipped to do it. They are equipped to do a lot of other things. So I'm not saying that they're not equipped to do anything. But what is that officer doing with somebody that is unhoused and has mental health issues and substance abuse issues? That may or may not think that they need to arrest this person, right? Where are they taking them? What are they doing? What resources do they have? What training, what skills do they have to really sit with this person and spend hours or days or months holding this person's hand to get them the help that they need? They're just not equipped to do it. And unfortunately, again, if you turn on the news, you see that officers have a lot of other things going on that they have to respond to. And a lot of feedback that we've gotten is sometimes officers aren't even responding to these quality of life concerns, not because they don't think it's important. So I don't want to put that narrative out there. But when there are shootings and there are break-ins and there are thefts and there are all these other things, our officers are busy dealing with those types of calls. So we are a non-emergency response for these types of things. So if we are trained and we are equipped and it is proven that alternative response actually works, why aren't we investing more money into this program? And there are a lot of other cities that have these similar programs going on that also prove effective. So what is it about our city where we have to fight for things like that?
Yeah, the interesting thing is the city of Atlanta is a Black city, it's Black led, it's Black run, it has a democratic establishment. And oftentimes I feel like some people might think because of those factors that when it comes to things like funding for policing, things might be differently. But one thing that's pretty clear is that supporting the police is, at least in this way you're speaking about with regards to hyper funding of the police, it's pretty bipartisan. So you see it across the board in cities, no matter what. And I'm just curious if Could you maybe share a little bit with us about some of the challenges that you might be able to overcome if you have the appropriate public support to get, the folks rally behind you, the public rally behind you that you need to keep going and keep your contract and keep showing how successful you can be and how successful you've been?
Sure. I think training is number one. So we constantly have ongoing training for our staff and all of our departments. So continue training with that, maybe even opening up the possibility of what we're talking about, like street medicine, being able to do some other things where, because again, EMS is tied up too, right? So if there's like basic type of things that we can do, I would love for our teams to be able to be trained in that. I think rallying behind us is really in the action of calling 311 and getting our teams out to this call. The more calls that we're getting consistently, then we can show a real need to hire more people. And that's really where the funding comes in, right? So if our call volume increases even by 30% of what it is now, it will call for us to have more staff available to be able to help. And maybe, who knows, maybe even one day branching outside of the city of Atlanta into some surrounding areas too. Because obviously the problem isn't only within the city of Atlanta. We can expand to all of Atlanta and maybe even go past that. Really standing behind us really opens up the possibility that we no longer will have to call this alternative response. It could just be a response. And we're really in the beginning stages of that. So just the continued support, because over time, the more data we're able to collect, the more people we're able to help. And just, again, proving to the powers that be and to our community that this works.
A lot of times when it comes to this, there's not a lot of help that organizations like yours get from the media in terms of clarifying and explaining how good policing alternatives actually are in practice and how much money they save in different instances or how many lives they change or whatever the case may be. So can you share with us a recent victory or a success or something that maybe didn't make the headlines that or let people know that you have some really positive things going on?
One thing I really like about PAD, I love about PAD, is we're very humble. And while it's great to have a headline on the news and it's great to be seen in a positive light and it's great to be seen as effective, what goes on behind these doors with our participants will always, for me, trump all of those things. When I see someone that was engaged in sex work and was constantly naked and just high out of her mind or high out of his mind and laughed at, spit at, I mean, literally spit at, water thrown on them, that sort of thing. And I'm able to look at their case notes and see they got a birth certificate today. And that's huge, right? That's huge for them. They got their ID, they got their social security card. Well, just having those three things, as we all know, opens up the possibilities for employment and for housing and family reunification, whatever it is. So those little things mean so much. When someone gets their first job after 15 years and they're going to their job sober and they have means to get to their job, those victories to me, like I literally have goosebumps thinking about it. Like those are the victories that I work towards, that I come to work to do, that keeps me going. It's again, the headlines are great. The recognition is great. The awards are great. All those things are awesome, but it's really what a lot of people don't see. If you're just someone, an everyday community member, and you drive by and you call PAD for somebody, right? That's probably, it could be the first time you see them and the last time you see them. Or maybe you see them a couple of times, but we get to see these people weekly and we get to remember how we found them and where they're at now. And to me, that's the greatest victory of alternative response and PAD, period.
Yeah, your humility on that reply is a testament to the sincerity of the work. So we really appreciate that, because a lot of times people do want to hear the flashy kind of high profile stories. And, I know that you all just had a diversion center win in terms of getting that opened up and everything. And, I was interested to hear what you were going to say in response, and to hear you just say, the day-to-day little things that might be as simple as, right, somebody getting a MARTA card or just getting some paperwork filed or
Right.
something that they needed. That says a lot about how sincere and how real everything that you're doing over at PAD is.
Mhm.
And it's taken me into this next aspect of this conversation, which is, say that there's a politician listening in, this place or that place, and they're like, oh, well, that sounds really interesting, but I don't want people to think that I'm soft on crime. I don't want people to think that I don't care about their safety or think whatever stereotype that, folks might have about this type of work or whatever misconception they might have about it. What would your message be to somebody who's listening who fears what it might mean to support policing alternatives in their community, even if they're just a community member or if they're somebody who actually has power? What would you say to them?
I would say if you're more concerned about people thinking that you're soft on crime and you're more concerned about what people think of you, you probably shouldn't be a politician. If you can't lead with some sort of compassion about the people that you work for, you really shouldn't be in a place of any type of power because you're part of the problem, respectfully.
There's nothing respectful about that at all.
I'm just saying.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, obviously, if you're in a position where you do have this type of concern, but the results are there, as you're saying, to show what the benefit can be, then yeah, it seems kind of like a no-brainer,
Right.
right? In an ideal world, if we're thinking about what we want the future to look like, what would this vision be that you have for the future?
I think the same way that we train our kids to call 911, that we can train them to call 311. For them to be able to differentiate between what's appropriate for an officer to respond to and what would require any type of enforcement versus what is going to require some level of compassion. That's not to say that some officers don't have compassion. I'm by no means saying that. I'm just saying that there is a possibility that there are other avenues that are more appropriate to help somebody. And I want that. I don't want it to be alternative response, because alternative, right, means that there's another way. I just want our way to be the way. And when I say our way, I'm not talking about PADS specifically, but the type of response that we implement. I want that to be the new normal. I want in 50 years, we're like, why the fuck were we doing it that way? Like, I almost want us to feel stupid in 50 years of like, why didn't we just go with this in the first place? Like, it works. So that's my hope for the future.
So what can people do to take action and get involved in? What can they do to get involved with PAD? What can they do in their own city or state? If they're not in Georgia or in Atlanta, what can people do to get involved? How can they take action?
Sure. So one of the first things I'll say is our volunteer program is back up and running. So you can visit our website, click on that volunteer link, and get connected to see in which ways you can help each department. Always look out for any job opportunities if you're interested in this work, if you have the heart for this work, because trust me, you will have to have the heart for it to be in it. Definitely, if you see somebody out there that could use help, again, I think the best way to support us is to really be one of those callers that calls us. If you have your own grassroots organization or you're part of a bigger organization and you feel like there's a way for us to collaborate and to expand, I would absolutely love that. Hit me up, Ash at Atlanta PAD. I'll direct you to the right place of where you need to go, or we can talk and just see how we can collaborate and really grow together with this.
Well, Ash, we really appreciate you coming on today. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I feel like we've all learned a lot listening to you. We really feel so appreciative of you and the work that you're doing and the organization that you're a part of. So shout out to PAD. We hope that all of our folks who are listening in Atlanta will use the resources that you provided, and for folks who are elsewhere, start thinking about ways that they can support the initiatives in their own location or try to build similar things. You're really giving us an opportunity to think about what else is possible. And, we just really wish you the best. And we want to know like what's going on with you as you continue to succeed and stay up to date. So we're wishing you well, and we'll catch everybody that's listening on the next episode of Don't Cop Out.
All right. Thanks, man.
With production support from Zane Murdoch and Leslie Taylor Grover, Don't Cop Out is produced by Sydney Smith, Darren Wallace, and Lynn Webb, who also edits the show. Our executive producers are Lily Workman and me, your host, William C. Anderson. Don't Cop Out is a product of PushBlack, the country's largest nonprofit black media company. You help make PushBlack possible with your donations at www.pushblack.us/don'tcopout. Most people give $5 or $10 a month, but every contribution helps and is greatly appreciated. Thank you for supporting our work.